Welcome, friends, to the PW Fan. The PW Fan is a pro wrestling podcast created by fans for fans, and we appreciate you joining us today for episode 7. I am your host, representing the old school wrestling fan, and your favorite local barber, Tim Gilbert.
And I'm your host, the architect of wrestling podcast, Andy.
I'm also your host, the no-selling wrestling indie fan, Jeremy.
All right, guys, we got another great show planned for you today. We're going to be talking about the draft, Brock Lesnar, Seth Rollins invading Edge's house, the matches that have been announced for Crown Jewel so far, Bryan Danielson versus Nick Jackson, NXT, and our weekly Dynamite review. Andy, okay, I'm going to pass it over to you so you can start us off.
So there was a lot that happened this week when it comes to the draft. Smackdown, I believe, had 5 rounds of picks on their show, and Raw had 6. What I wanted to talk about, though, when it came to the draft was just strictly the superstars that have switched shows. SmackDown gained Charlotte Flair, Drew McIntyre, The New Day, Hit Row from NXT, Jeff Hardy, Sheamus, Shayna Baszler, Xia Li from NXT, Viking Raiders, Ricochet, Humberto Carrillo and Angel Garza, and Ridge Holland as well from NXT. Raw's picks were Edge, Bianca Belair, Rey and Dominic Mysterio, Becky Lynch, Austin Theory of NXT, Seth Rollins, Kevin Owens, The Street Profits, Finn Balor, Carmella, and the gold medal Olympian Jacob Stevenson, who I believe is not going to start his career on the main roster until possibly April of next year. What do you guys think of these picks?
I mean, just from hearing those names, I think definitely SmackDown and also Fox got the better deal of it. They still have,
That's what I was thinking too.
Yeah, they still have Reigns, which then all the superstars who named there paired with Reigns, it's going to be great, I think. Especially McIntyre and Reigns. Which I don't think, it's felt like they haven't done that in a while, right? Or they haven't done it.
Did they? I think they did it last year during the Survivor Series.
Yeah, that's what
I believe.
think, yeah.
And I think Roman went over.
Right, yeah, he did. Okay, yeah. But I mean, it still feels like fresh just because it's on a different brand, at least for the time being so far. But yeah, I think they're going to keep Fox happy, and I think USA is just going to keep... I don't know what's going to happen at the end of their contract with USA, so for the network deal. And what do you think, Tim?
I will say, well, I actually have more of a question. Do you guys think either show is particularly more star-heavy right now with the draft? Do you think either one show made out better than the other, or do you think it's well-balanced?
Well, me and Jeremy were both saying that we think SmackDown got the better end of the deal.
Yeah.
In my opinion, particularly, I'm really excited to see what they do with Ricochet on SmackDown. I feel like he has been on Raw forever. Also, it seems like Jeff Hardy, for some reason, is getting more of a push. At least it seems like that from the fans online, is that they're really behind him. One of his dream matches, I've heard him say before, is he wants to go against Roman Reigns for the Universal title. Being on SmackDown, might be able to see it. Not saying he's going to go over, but I still, that'd be cool for just something to check off his bucket list of his wrestling career.
Did you either of you guys happen to watch his match with Jeff Hardy this week?
Much better
on Raw?
With Damian Priest.
Yeah.
I thought.
Yeah, that's the reason why I brought it up, because I just thought that the more they've been working together, their chemistry has gotten a lot better.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Especially from that triple threat match on the pay-per-view. They've been so much better together.
Also, something to point out, since Edge and Rollins were both drafted to Raw, it doesn't look like their feud's going to end, anytime soon. I'm also really excited to see what they do with Balor on Raw this time. They did give him a little video package, and not every superstar got that with the draft, so we'll see what's in the cards for him.
Just hopefully no more flip-flopping Demon and rising from his music being played.
Don't play his music during the match. It makes no sense.
Yes.
And you know what's weird? I don't know if it was done on purpose or if it was just a coincidence, and we'll get into it with Dynamite. But the same thing happened with Jericho, where he came out and he was fighting off American Top Team. The music's playing the whole time. And so I think it's because the crowd will feel like if they don't get that chance to sing, it's like, that's part of the reason why you buy a ticket. You want to go sing that song with everybody.
It's a segment in itself, basically.
Right. I just thought it was interesting though that
Yeah.
twice.
Yeah, I thought the
I
same
didn't pick
thing.
up on that though this week.
We've had rock music playing while the match is happening.
Yeah, but I think that made more sense because everyone sings along with Jericho's song, and it was like a quick they beat him up for like a few seconds and then they were out of the ring. It wasn't an entire still during the match part.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and the other thing is that crowd was going to keep singing that song no matter what.
Yeah, I mean they can't shut the whole crowd up. You can't unmic them, When it came to SmackDown this week, not just the draft though, there is two things in particular I want to cover. One, Brock Lesnar. I'm such a fan of this Brock. He usually is in the past hasn't been the best on the mic and needed Paul Heyman, but he was doing a backstage interview. He's been on the mic in the ring lately. I can't really tell if he's a heel or a babyface, but he's doing winks at the camera and stuff. I'm really liking it. I'm really looking forward to him and Roman getting back into the ring. How do you guys feel about Brock? I know we talked about it before, but this week, we got to see more of him. He beats up the Usos a little bit.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, this is my favorite Brock also. It doesn't really matter at this point if he's a babyface or a heel. Just because it feels like this is actually him, just Brock being Brock right now. This is not him playing a character or anything. It's just him coming back and enjoying himself wrestling. So it's awesome to see this.
It's over the years, I don't feel like Brock has been fully appreciated for how good he really is. But it's anytime I listen to an interview with an actual wrestler, they'll say Brock is so good. People don't understand how good he actually is. And I've heard that from people that own wrestling schools. I've seen that even the toughest critics give him his props. I think he gets a label for being, I don't want to say lazy, but on the Broken Skull podcast with Stone Cold, Dean Ambrose said he was disappointed because he didn't want to do certain things in their WrestleMania match to make it more memorable in his opinion. But then on that same podcast just recently, Seth Rollins said something similar. He said that Brock told him one time, "Why do you want to do all this stuff? Nobody's going to remember all this stuff." And then he's like, what they're going to remember is boom, boom, boom. And then he laid some stuff out for him. And Seth said, "I didn't get it at the time." He said, and it bummed me out. He's like, but now I get it. So I think also he does have stuff that he can teach people too. And he is a teacher. I believe he has done some stuff with MMA coaching and wrestling, so he probably has that in him. And I think the thing is, it's whether or not people want to take his advice, because his style is definitely different than most modern people who are doing the most. They're adding in all their stuff. There's a million false finishes. But Brock's look, we just keep it simple. And a lot of the time, think about it, anytime Brock has a match, I remember a lot of it because it's a different pace, but it's still very impactful, and there's still big spots. And yeah, he's great. He does great facials, underrated. For a guy that's very serious apparently in real life and not a people person and lives out in the woods by himself, he's very charismatic when it comes to just selling and being over the top. He can be funny. He seems like he can be comfortable doing that type of thing. It's just not his natural state.
I remember Brock when when I first got back into wrestling as a kid, his first incarnation, his first run with WWE. I mean, he wrestled very differently back then compared to how he does now. And it really is a different incarnation. I mean, there's that Brock from when he started. There's the Brock when he came back as the Beast Incarnate. And now this, I can't give it a name, but I'm here for it. I wonder if there's what because he's not. It doesn't look like the MMA guy really anymore. At least we haven't seen him in gear. So I wonder, if anything will change. We have seen him, still take the Usos to Suplex City, so at least that part's still around. But man, I remember he had great matches as a kid and could go. He could go with Kurt Angle, and his style was just completely different. But like you were saying, I have heard people, even some that surprised me, like John Cena, really give Brock, props for just being one of the greatest of all time, really, in his opinion. I think he's what he said. And so overall, it just makes me really excited for his match against Roman, and to see even what gear he's wearing. Is he going to wear the same gear, And just those are the kind of questions that this new incarnation of him.
If he comes out with like
myself.
a lumberjack look, that'd be pretty cool. It's like ring gear.
Brian Myers, who runs the Creative Pro Wrestling School, and he used to be Kurt Hawkins in the WWE, a few years ago when Brock was in that Rumble where he was eliminating everybody one by one, and that was the one
champion?
where
he started as a champion, yeah.
Yeah, and that's when Keith Lee came out and he did he's a big boy like that. Yeah, that Rumble. There was an interview after that where Brian Myers was like, dude, Brock is the best. He's like my favorite wrestler right now. He's like, he's so good. He's like, people don't even understand. And that's, a guy who he's trained a lot of AEW talent, including MJF. So that's in my opinion, that's high praise.
Moving on from Brock, though, the last segment I wanted to get to about from SmackDown was when Seth Rollins invaded Edge's house. I want to bring it up because it's almost like the coin was flipped. It reminds me of when Edge invaded Cena's home back in the day and beat up his dad.
It's definitely a little bit of a callback to that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and also you haven't, I feel like you haven't seen the house invasion angle in a while. To me, I mean, I missed the entire PG era, so there was probably some in between there. But the last one I really remember was Triple H invading Randy Orton's home, and that was a very entertaining segment back in the day. But
do you remember anything about John Cena and Edge, the original home invasion that you're talking about? Well, that's not the original. I think
how
the
terrible John
original
Cena's dad's acting was?
Stone Cold going in with a gun into Brian Pillman's house.
Oh, you mean that?
How terrible his acting was.
Yeah, John Cena's dad.
Yeah. He said, "Come on, spinnerhead."
Yes. So, I really didn't hate this segment. I thought I was gonna when I saw what they were doing. I saw Seth next to a cabin. I was like, oh, I think they're at not a cabin, but Edge's home just does look like a mansion of a cabin.
Yeah. If
you've ever seen it. But I was like, oh, I think they're at his house. And then he goes in. It was actually really entertaining, though. Seth does, after listening to the new Broken Skull sessions with him, he really does play that. It's now Drip God is the character name if you want to give it one. He really does play it very well. And especially when at the end, he goes into their, I guess you could call it their reading room and just lounges back on there and he's like, eating the apple so casually. But the main reason I wanted to bring this segment up is Edge kind of blurred the lines a little bit. And I want to pass it over to you, Tim. But it's when he was on the phone with his wife and he mentioned the names Daniel and David.
Yeah, so in the ring, he called Beth and said that Daniel and David were on their way over to deal with Rollins, and Daniel and David is Dax and Cash from FTR. That's their real-life names, and they are neighbors of Edge, and it's been talked about where Edge has been... when he was getting back into the ring, his first comeback, that they would come over and train with him. And I just thought it was interesting that they blurred that line between the two companies. However, from what I've read, nobody cared and it wasn't a big deal at all. And, I mean, it's Edge, so what are you going to do? fire him, get mad at him. Like, he can pretty much talk and do whatever he wants in a promo.
I mean, I doubt it was part of the script. I'm sure he doesn't really follow scripts that much anymore, so maybe it was off the top of his head and what made sense to him if it was a real life situation, you know.
Do you think they even knew like that was like he was doing that on purpose, like saying their names like that?
Yeah, that's I really don't think so.
That's what I was just getting into. I wonder if he, because he doesn't really follow a script, so I wonder if he just did it and he thought it felt natural, because if that situation was real, you know, he would say something like that, you know, talk about calling his neighbors, or because he is out in the middle of nowhere. I mean, for law enforcement to come by, it would take a while. So neighbors, it would be a more natural thing to do, and for him to call, and maybe he just blurted it out, didn't think about it at all. I doubt WWE really knew, or maybe he asked for permission and he's like, I won't call him, you know, Dax and Cash.
Yeah.
I didn't know at first until Tim had mentioned to us that that's who it was talking about.
Yeah, I didn't know either.
It didn't even cross my mind.
You think like Vince would even knows, because sometimes Vince only knows like them by their wrestling name.
If I had to guess, I'm sure it's just something that he came up with and said, and probably didn't even think about it as much as we are. He probably just thought, you know, these guys are, you know, this is what makes sense. And I mean, he probably did think for a second, and it's kind of cool that we can include that for the fans like us who we know about that type of thing. So I always appreciate that, bringing a little layer of realism into it.
Moving on from SmackDown, I wasn't going to really talk about Raw this week, because in WWE this week, the big thing was the draft. And that was covered over 2 nights through both shows. What happened, though, within those 2 nights, a couple of Crown Jewel matches were announced. So I just wanted to, you know, mention which ones have been announced between those 2 shows. Let's see here. We got Roman Reigns versus Brock Lesnar for the Universal Championship. Most likely, you know, I would think that's going to be the main event of the show. It's definitely going to close it out. For the WWE title, you have Big E versus Drew McIntyre. For the WWE SmackDown Women's title, we have a triple threat: Becky Lynch versus Bianca Belair versus Sasha Banks. For the WWE Raw Tag Team titles, we have Randy Orton and Matt Riddle versus AJ Styles and Omos. And then we have Goldberg versus Bobby Lashley in a no-holds-barred match.
What did you think about Goldberg's promo and Lashley's promo?
I'm trying to remember it. I remembered I didn't hate it.
Yeah, I'm never a huge fan of Goldberg.
I thought it would have been worse. Honestly, when I knew they were gonna be doing a segment together, I thought it was gonna be a lot worse. Goldberg uses like kitty insults. Like, I guess is like what I would say. Like, shut up. Like things like I don't know. How about you?
Well, he's also, you know, like he said, he wants to be that superhero character. So I'm sure there's a part of him that doesn't want to do certain things.
What you think of the promo, though, Tim?
I thought for Goldberg promo, his intensity was good, and it probably helps that they're doing an angle with his son, so that way he can bring like some real life energy into it.
I agree.
I do feel like you said, it was like that superhero style, so it feels very corny, and it's like very like back in the 90-ish. Like he would cut a promo like that, and it doesn't feel like it translates now. Even though like the intensity is great, like how he had it, but it's like what he's saying. I was like, it feels like kind of weak.
I feel like his older promos, especially the ones in the early 2000s in his first WWE run, he was probably more of an angrier person in real life.
That's what I was about to say. He was an angry dude.
Came through. Yeah. Like you could just always tell. Like, he just seemed like, and he also, I mean, he's publicly stated that he did not have fun his first run.
No, not at all. And
it caused him a lot of anxiety.
So before I get into NXT, I just do want to make a note that the draft picks that were announced in the beginning, they don't go into effect until October 22nd, that Monday after Crown Jewel. So I don't think people are going to be showing up on other shows. I know they did for the draft, because that's kind of, you know, the thing when some people get drafted, you know, they show up that night and so on. But They gave him about 3 weeks, they said, for the day after Crown Jewel.
But why didn't they just have it later then? Like, if they're going to plan on doing that, why don't they just do it later?
Couldn't really tell you.
It's the question.
Most of the time, I don't know what's going through their head when it comes to planning. But
I feel like they're wasting a lot of stuff for this pay-per-view that nobody cares about.
Yeah.
Hey, like I said, you gotta make the prince happy.
I mean, they've said before they know people they think it's a throwaway pay-per-view, like just for the Saudi. Like, I think that as well. I'm sure, like, both of you
I've
guys.
always looked at it that way.
Yeah.
All those, the greatest Rumble ever, and
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 there's
Crown
terrible
Jewel.
names too, and like I think they're trying to just make it sound more important or feel more important.
Still gotta find a way to watch it. It's 12 p.m. our time, I believe.
Yeah, on a Thursday night, right?
Yeah, it's always during the workday.
Yeah.
So, catch it if you can, guys. So, moving on from Raw and SmackDown, I did want to talk about, though, one thing from this week's Rampage from Friday night, and it was the opening match, Nick Jackson versus Bryan Danielson. Now, I've heard Tim's opinion of this match, which differs from mine. Not sure how you, Jeremy, feel, but I'm just going to go into a few things about it. A couple parts I liked. I liked when Nick Jackson was giving Bryan Danielson some of his own kicks, and Bryan gets pissed and actually leans into them. I thought it was really funny when Nick went for a kick on the outside to Bryan Danielson and just hits Brandon Cutler in the face. It actually made me laugh out loud when I was by myself.
Yeah, so did I.
That spot was hilarious.
One of the things I really want to point out is Bryan used a lot of moves that I'd never seen him use in WWE, and I had seen him use in Ring of Honor. I also wanted to point out that this felt like this match was for Daniel Bryan. I mean, he basically beat the shit out of Nick Jackson majority of the match and tied him up real good. In the end, the winner was Bryan Danielson with a submission called the Cattle Mutilation, which I believe was one of his old finishers. If
I
I'm
love
not
that finisher.
back in the day. Yeah, I'd never seen it really before, or at least not in years. Yeah, it was really cool. Afterwards, the Elite and Jurassic Express brawl, and then Omega and Adam Cole are both put in submissions and both left in the ring, tapping out to Jurassic Express and I believe in particular it was Jungle Boy and Bryan Danielson. What you guys think of the match? What you think of the segment and as a whole? AEW's really been putting on a lot of great openers lately. I've lost track of how many weeks in a row it's been, but I would say ever since All Out, it's been pretty consistent.
Yeah, I love how they've been booking the shows with that first match being such a great match to start off the show with. I do kind of miss Rampage being live when they had it those first few weeks, because I always feels like the show kind of hurts with I'm sure the crowd is tired on a Wednesday watching what's about like 4 hours of wrestling, and another hour after Dynamite. So that's why I always feel like having it live, it always feels more exciting, and then you just like having that live feeling, you never know what's going to happen. And also it'll probably help with the ratings too with Rampage. But yeah, this match is definitely a Bryan Danielson style match, I think, which was interesting because I think a lot of people were thinking with Nick Jackson there's going to be a lot of high-flying moves and a very quick pace, which it kind of was, but then it was also slowed down a lot with the holds that Bryan did, which I thought was different and caught people off guard, kind of what they were expecting. But overall, I really enjoyed it, and yeah, that finisher to me is so great because it feels very realistic too, which you have it in and it's like you actually can't get out of it. Unlike some other finishes, I'm like, why not just grab the guy's head then? But this one is like you really can't get out of it then.
I thought it was I didn't know what I was expecting. I think because the Omega and Danielson match was so good, I had these high expectations. I thought it was a really good pro wrestling match. It was interesting to see Nick Jackson work that style, which is not his usual thing, a more mat-based style, and he did incorporate some of his own stuff. But it was really cool to see that, if he wanted to do that different pace, different style, that he's pretty good at it. I enjoyed the match overall. I didn't think it was like anything spectacular. Like, I mean, I didn't think it was like, I can't even put it in the same league or ballpark as the Danielson and Omega match, but it was still a good match, and I enjoyed it. And I think Nick Jackson has like a completely better like look and gimmick now. I like actually that the Bucks are. I don't like some of the outfits, but I like that they look a little older now. They have the facial hair. I take them like a little bit more seriously. If they like dressed a little bit more seriously, that would be cool. But I know that's like part of the shtick that they do. They're trying to like be ridiculous and make you not like them and they get on your nerves.
Wait, you don't like the furry headbands that they wear?
I mean, they've always dressed wild. That's kind of always been their thing, and then they've done callback retro looks, and I'm wearing the Zubaz pants, and then I don't know. It's a little silly.
When Nick Jackson had that like nose ring attached, it was like a chain from like what is like ear to his nose. He just looks so insane.
Yeah, that was pretty funny.
So, guys, let's get into NXT 2.0 this week. I'm not gonna bring up any specific segments or anything. As a whole, again, I don't think it was
We're
worse.
We're gonna take it easy on NXT this week.
I think like we said, I'm gonna give it a couple weeks and see if this is really a weekly every show, it's the direction they're going with. But I didn't think it was worse than last week. I didn't think it was any better. I did watch the whole thing. The main event was pretty good for the NXT Tag Team titles. Between MSK, Grizzled Young Vets, Briggs and Jensen, and Carmelo Hayes and Trick Williams. But I don't know. It feels like they're throwing in segments that just maybe it's for the younger crowd, or last week Tim, you were talking about he's trying to be edgier. Maybe it's not an appealing edginess though. At least not to me.
To me, this episode is almost even like more boring than last week's episode. Like, I know it's kind of the same, but I don't know, just overall throughout the thing, like, I like Ciampa's segment, and like, yeah, the main event was good, but everything else was, they kind of did the same thing, and I was like fast forwarding a lot of it.
The only thing I'm looking forward to, and I said this last week, is Braun Breaker versus Tommaso Ciampa. Braun Breaker's really the only new guy I've taken to as of now. You still have a couple other guys. I was really wishing LA Knight was going to get drafted to the main roster. I think he'd be a perfect fit and a really good heel, especially, but, didn't get to see that. What about you, Tim? What do you think about the show?
Again, like you said, it wasn't any worse than last week. I guess it's consistent, and this is going to be the direction that they're going to go with for a little bit. The thing about our show that I like is we represent basically three different types of wrestling fan, basically except for the casual fan, because we don't have a fourth host who's a casual fan. But I'm like the old school wrestling fan. Jeremy likes the fast, we all kind of like the stuff overall, right? But like if we had a specialty or whatever, I like the old school stuff. Jeremy likes the indie stuff. And then Andy, you've always told me since we were little, like, you can't just watch wrestling if it was just all wrestling. You're like, there has to be good storylines. You're like, I just can't watch it.
I need a mix of both. Yeah, I can't just watch match after match after match. Unless it's like two guys that I know of, or it's like a dream match for me. Then I can like do it with no storyline. But if you're just putting two guys together and I have no idea about it, I need something to make me care, make me think there's some stakes.
Right. What I'm getting at is we're three segments of the audience basically. Who is this for? Like who? Like what? What show? What about this show is like appealing to like? I mean, has nothing for me as the old school guy. I mean, Jeremy, your guys like Tommaso Ciampa, Johnny Gargano, the fast-paced guys, they feel like they're getting phased out.
Yeah, they don't even fit
And
into it
then
anymore.
Andy, the storylines, right, they don't even fit into it. And then Andy, you're like the storyline guy, and not much going on there right now.
I mean, I feel bad for poor Kyle O'Reilly. They're just pairing him with a big guy, and I feel like he's just, he's just going to play the small guy role now. I mean, when you look at him next to Von Wagner, it's like, Jesus. Like, Von Wagner's playing this, like, protector of Kyle O'Reilly now and making it seem like Kyle can't handle his own, which we've seen in the past with the old NXT, but this new NXT, God help him, he can't handle his own against these guys.
He needs to go to AEW and join both Bobby Fish and Adam Cole.
The undisputed elite.
Yeah, that'd be cool if they did that
into
versus
a super
the actual
group.
elite.
It'll be like NWO with like 75 members.
Yeah.
Just real quick, I know that we're going to get there, but I didn't read anything or even look into it, but I did notice last night on Dynamite that they kept saying the super elite and not the super click. Could they not do the super click? Did WWE like reach out to them or something?
No, so I was talking to one of my buddies who listens to our podcast every week, and he texted me and he said,
Give him a shout out.
His name is Corey Gibson. He lives up in New York. He texted me. I guess he was in the middle of listening.
Are you gonna give his
He doesn't have an
social
Instagram.
too?
He doesn't have
And his
like,
credit card
he
number?
doesn't have any.
He's
Well,
also
social
rich.
security number.
This is his address, guys.
Yeah.
You can go find him here.
Say hi.
Go
He
knock
lives
on his
here.
door. Why don't you go knock
You
on
can
his
find
door?
him here.
You can do a home invasion angle with him. It'll be a real
A
fun
real
time.
home invasion angle.
Yeah. So what's up, Corey? I know you'll listen this week.
All right.
So he texted me and he's like, you know that they've called themselves Super Click in the past, and it was actually something I was going to bring up this week. I wanted to do a little bit of house cleaning and say, hey, when Adam Cole had paired up with the Young Bucks last week, I said, I guess this is what they're calling themselves now. But apparently, in like ROH and New Japan and stuff, when it was the three of them together, they'd already been calling themselves a Super Click. My problem is when I had seen them on like ROH or New Japan, I'd never seen the three of them together, and I wasn't really watching or paying attention to Being the Elite back then. But when it comes to the Super Elite, that's everyone together. That's Omega, that's Adam Cole, that is the Young Bucks. That is the Super Elite. So there's a difference. One just has
Real
Omega in
quick,
it.
I just have a question because I do not watch it. I know, boo. I'm no fun. I know you guys both either have watched or do watch the Being the Elite YouTube show. Do you like it? And do you think it adds anything to when you watch Dynamite if you understand what's going on their YouTube show?
I have seen clips. I couldn't, I feel like I really don't have time to be watching like the full show and stuff, but if there's certain segments that I see advertised that, were on it, I'll scrub through it to find that, particular segment. Like, for example, when Punk debuted, they had you got to see backstage of him about to walk up the stairs to the ramp and whatnot.
Yeah.
So there's things like that, but I have seen things in the past. At times, yeah, I think it adds to stuff, but, they're doing it for fun. I don't think they, really have to have it connect all the time. I remember there was a whole storyline back in the day before All Elite Wrestling was a thing, where Heyman Adam Page's boots were like stolen or lost or buried. I don't know.
Yeah,
something
that was a
like
weird
that.
storyline.
Yeah. So I mean, and then they I think brought that to the surface at the All In pay-per-view.
Yeah.
So there was some continuity there, but I don't. How much do you watch of it, Jeremy?
Well, I, on the other hand, have plenty of time to watch it every day or every week. I mean, during work. No, I'm just kidding. Yeah, I mean, I do watch it every week because I actually really enjoy the show. I actually enjoy all of the vlogs that the AEW wrestlers do, just because you get to see backstage things and just people not in character and just being themselves, which is really cool. But yeah, I think BTE kind of it used to add a lot more because I think they do a lot more just on TV now for storyline wise, and they realize that people don't watch everyone doesn't watch the YouTube channel compared to Dynamite, and so they've kind of moved away from that. But they do a lot of fun things on there, and you get to see kind of like Dustin Rhodes and I think on Sammy's vlog he has Cody and Fuego doing a bit right now, which is really funny. But yeah, I think it's really great what they do.
Just gives you a backstage glimpse into their lives.
Yeah, and they have a BTE like title now, so they play like all the wrestlers get together and play like a tournament or whatever they decide the game is, and so it's like it's just fun to watch. That's cool.
Oh yeah, and I definitely don't want the listeners to think that I'm like one of those guys who doesn't like the Young Bucks or Kenny Omega or something like that. Like, no, man, I have a Bullet Club tattoo. Like, I have a bunch of tattoos. I went through a phase where I had like a New Japan subscription. I was watching all that stuff. Andy and I went to a big Ring of Honor show. What was the one specifically, Andy? Do you remember?
Oh God, I want to say Best in the World.
It was down at UMBC in Baltimore.
Yeah.
But anyway, it was a great card. I love those guys. Yeah, I love those guys. I just don't watch their YouTube show. It's some of the comedy sketch stuff is like a little too much for me. But I do like what Jeremy's saying. Get anything where you can see behind the scenes. Let's put it this way: the only reason, I don't even know if we're gonna talk about it, but I even watched 10 minutes of Roads to the Top was to see like behind the scenes of AEW. It was not my favorite show. Man. I'm not super.
I'm a fan. I'm gonna keep watching.
I like it, but
I know you watch them all, man. And Andy's dirty secret, man. He watches Ms. and Mrs. He watches Divas.
Ms. and Mrs. is great, man. Don't knock Ms. and Mrs. Hey, your wife likes Ms. and Mrs. too. Yeah.
My wife and I watch Ms. and Mrs. It's actually hilarious. But yeah, you watch all that stuff. Oh, yeah. I'm like, oh my god,
you watch
I like all that. I like the behind the scenes stuff. Screw it. You guys want to get into this week's Dynamite from last night, though?
Yeah, it's a good transition.
Oh, yeah.
Alrighty. Great opening match. It opened with, like we were just talking about, the Super Elite versus Jurassic Express with Christian Cage and Bryan Danielson. The winners were the Super Elite with the BTE trigger to Jungle Boy in the middle of the ring. Awesome match. Cool to see everyone, paired up. I felt like everyone had their moment, especially like Luchasaurus. Luchasaurus is awesome. He was doing some really cool stuff during this match. I really liked it, and they continue to open up with very good matches.
Yeah, another great match. And the Luchasaurus, and also I think like Jungle Boy probably benefits so much from having a crowd back. Because like the crowd was chanting Luchasaurus right when the match started. And then he got a huge pop when he came in. But yeah, that the BTE trigger with, was it all four of them? I think it was. That was pretty brutal.
It was a 4-post massacre.
Yeah, that's what Kenny Omega said. I loved every person got their moment for this. Danielson came in and kind of beat them all up, and then also had that standoff again with Omega, which the crowd popped again, and it's just the thing where it's like they keep doing such a great job building to have another match with those two. And so once they
Danielson's intensity in AEW is very turned up compared to what it was in WWE. It's really, it's cool to see.
And he's a serious character now. He's not just a smiling Daniel Bryan.
There was one part during the match, and it was just me. I don't know if anybody else noticed it, but Jungle Boy had been in the match at that point for a while, and the crowd was like ready for Danielson to get in, and Jungle Boy's selling and like can't get to him in the corner. At one point, I swear, for like a second, Danielson was like, he had that look of like, all right, come on, like just freaking tag me. Like seriously, this is getting a little like. No, like, but like he just had that look of like, all right, come on, seriously, hurry up a little bit.
I forgot during this match,
like for like 1 second, his face like kind of get like broke character. He looked like he looked annoyed. It made me laugh. I started laughing.
I forgot during this match, wasn't there a big botch with a power bomb to Luchasaurus? Like Kenny fell backwards.
Yeah. It was all 4 of them doing it, too.
Yeah, that was not good.
Yeah, I was just like, but they played it off because they knew that they messed up, and they seemed like they were like kind of laughing about it in the ring.
Yeah, they're great at doing that, though. Like, they don't just try
Yeah,
to,
they were like,
continue
oh, well.
it. Yeah.
It's not like they tried to redo it. They just just
Yeah.
moved on from it.
They acknowledge it, and they're, like, kind of laugh about it. And then I think the other botch, not really botch, but, like, Jungle Boy when trying to do the Hurricane Rana when he jumped over the top rope to Nick Jackson. And he completely missed Nick Jackson's head. And then Nick Jackson just grabbed his leg.
Just did.
And then kind of flipped like he got him.
After the match, we had a backstage segment from Jon Moxley talking about the main event, casino ladder match. Then we had a segment from CM Punk in the ring. Trying to remember what he talked about specifically. I know he talked about his Jordans for a little bit.
Yeah.
Or maybe they were Nikes, but
They were Jordans, yeah. Do you remember which ones
in
they
the
were,
end,
Tim?
Oh, he was wearing the retro Jordan 1s. I don't know. He had jeans over the top, so I didn't know if they were the mid or the high tops.
Yeah.
But he was on that complex sneaker shopping vlog, and I actually watched it because I like some. I don't collect sneakers, but I find it kind of fascinating, and that was pretty cool.
Yeah.
and he gave the sneakers to a kid dressed like Orange Cassidy.
Yeah.
On his way out.
I love how the kid, like, no-sold it, too.
He told him something before he got in the ring, which I don't know if he was like, hey, I'm going to give you something after this, or he said straight up, like, I'm going to give you these shoes.
Right.
I don't know, but either way, he said it. He said something to him, and then after the match, he brought the shoes over to him.
Yeah, and I thought it was kind of funny during this is, like, the first time I think Punk kind of, like, messed up a promo, because he meant to say, like, cheesesteak, and he said cheesecake. And he's like, which one is
Well,
it?
he's like, is it cheesesteak here or is it cheesecake here? He couldn't remember what was like the popular.
Yeah, I was like, it's obviously cheesesteak, Punk. Come on.
Yeah. Come on, man.
Philly was like, all right, come on.
Yeah.
But
Don't disrespect.
which is weird
us.
because it's weird though because I've seen an interview with Punk where this is like some like deep level nerd stuff, but somebody was asking him what is Pat's or Geno's for cheesesteaks, and he said Tony Luke's, which is another.
That's a good answer.
It's popular, but a lot of people will say that that's like the secret best one besides like a hole in the wall spot. That and Jim's on South Street, but yeah, people, or he definitely knows that. I don't know why he messed that up.
I know.
I think he was trying to play it off, but then when he said, "Is it cheesesteak or cheesecake?" Philly was like, "All right."
Yeah, they just almost started booing again.
At the end of the segment, though, I believe he challenged Daniel Garcia to a match at Rampage this week. So
Yeah, should be good.
If you're listening, that is tonight on Friday. Then we had a segment at Cody Rhodes' house
Oh my! I totally
with
forgot
Arn
about
Anderson in the backyard around a fire, talking, about the stuff that's been going on with him and Cody. And at one point, Arn says something. He's like, "You might as well just paint a star on your face," which is, obviously a little throwing shade at Cody's Stardust character in WWE. But I don't know where this is going because I think Cody was like, "Did you bring your gun?"
Yeah, he's like, "What are you gonna shoot me?"
Yeah, that's what he says.
The funniest thing I think about this is like how they started. It was just Arn in the back burning stuff, and then Cody comes and he's like, "Arn?" It's like some random
he's just
old
on
guy.
his balcony, like, what are you doing in my backyard, dude?
And it's like you don't think the neighbors are
Are
like,
you lighting a fire in my backyard?
Yeah, the neighbors are like, "Hey Cody, there's an old guy in your backyard burning stuff." Like, I don't know. And then he like slapped Cody at the end, and it was just like a straight like it was a hard slap too. It was,
Yeah.
And then it just ended, which is kind of awkward, but
Yeah.
Did you guys hear Cody Rhodes' Mount Rushmore of wrestling? I saw it. I know what it is. If you don't know what it is, but the names are very interesting.
I heard he had Vince on there.
Okay, so his list was Dusty Rhodes, Vince McMahon, The Rock.
Is it Triple H?
Tony Khan.
Oh.
Tony Khan.
I mean, whatever floats your boat, man.
I was like, all right. If it's him, Vince influences for him on his life. I'm curious where The Rock fits in on that, but the rest of them would make sense.
I think he said The Rock was like his favorite wrestler growing up. Before.
Okay.
I think that's what, like when he was
all right.
a
Well, then
fan.
that's more insight on that.
I think so, but I'd have to double check that. But I feel like I've heard that before.
And I mean, I guess Tony Khan, just because.
I just thought Tony Khan being on there was interesting.
So after that segment, we had a video package of Bobby Fish, which led into a match between Bobby Fish versus Sammy Guevara for the TNT Championship. Really good match. Really, really good. Both guys are really good. They're completely different styles, but I really liked it. The winner was Sammy Guevara. He won with the GTH. And shortly after, I don't think they announced it on the show, but at least on social media, Bobby Fish is now officially All Elite. So congratulations to him. Afterwards, American Top Team and Men of the Year surround Sammy in the ring. Then out comes Fuego del Sol.
Hang on one second. I just wanted to say that I thought the match was on. It's like I thought it was really good. It was my favorite match on the show. Even I liked it better than the opener, to be honest with you. It's more my speed.
Yeah. I mean, I totally agree with that. I mean, when you have the Elite in there, everything's going to be pretty fast-paced.
And it's just a lot of people.
Yeah. But after Fuego del Sol came out to help out Sammy, he was very quickly taken out. And then Chris Jericho and Jake Hader come out to help. They clear the ring. So, I mean, I just include that because it was all connected through that match, before they really switched to anything else. But, yeah, I mean, I really like the match. I feel like Sammy's going to have a good title run. I'm excited to see who he goes up against. I feel like a match with him and Scorpio Sky would be pretty good. Scorpio Sky, I think, is at least nowadays an overlooked talent. He was, in the forefront at the beginning of AEW. I feel like he's more in the background now, but
yeah, I'm kind of happy that Sammy has the title now because you get to see him wrestle so many times on Dynamite, and he puts on great matches. And yeah, with Man of the Year, I think either one, Ethan Page or Scorpio Sky with Sammy, they're gonna have great matches. And hopefully it's both of them. And I mean, obviously, hopefully Sammy retains, and I don't know. I feel like he can be a champion for like over a year right now, just how hot he is right now.
So, AEW has done very few, but there has been a few, and I keep it fair. I try to. They've done a few things that I'm not a huge fan of. The MMA fighters, like the MMA legends, who in their own world are awesome. Like I used to order all the UFC pay-per-views, especially in like the 2010s and stuff, like when Brock was there and Chuck Liddell and like before Connor up until the Ronda Rousey era, I was really into it. So I know a lot of these faces, but yeah, just I'm not a big fan of like, because when they're throwing the punches and stuff, it's very see-through to me, and because they don't really know what they're doing, and this is like one thing for AEW that I wish that they weren't doing.
Yeah, I can see that.
Because now these guys are actually going to wrestle.
Yeah, I think that's what
they're actually going to wrestle.
Well, the one guy
I think something in Miami. Masvidal, is he going to get in the ring with him?
Well,
I think it's Dos Santos.
Yeah, I know those guys are big stars, but we have to keep it real and we have to keep it fair because there's going to be a segment of listeners who are going to think this. Same scenario if WWE was doing this, like when they brought in Cain Velasquez, everybody was like, yo, this is trash. And it was trash. It sucked.
Don't forget Tyson Fury against Braun Strowman.
Right. Well, okay, so just because it's under an AEW umbrella, I can't just give it a free pass. Gotta keep it fair.
I do want to see.
I agree.
After the match, how bad, like if they are that bad, because I feel like with the freedom that AEW
we're definitely going to talk about it.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like the difference with AEW is they give them the leeway of kind of doing what they want, and maybe that might translate for an MMA fighter into wrestling. I don't know.
All right, guys. So right now, I'm going to keep moving forward. I mean, Jeremy cut this part out, but we're at like 54 minutes now, and some of the stuff we're going to like fly through,
Yeah.
like some of the backstage segments and stuff. So, alrighty. So after the Bobby Fish and Sammy Guevara match, we had the Acclaim backstage. After that, though, I really want to talk a little bit about was Tony Schiavone's in the ring, and he reveals the new championship. It is the TBS championship for the women's division, so they finally have a secondary title. I'm really happy about this. I mean, the title looks great, especially when you compare it to the AEW women's title that they currently are using. I just wish that title was beefed up a little bit more. But for years watching WWE, especially now their women's roster is so large, they could definitely use another title besides the women's tag team titles, and I can't understand why they haven't pulled that trigger yet. But maybe this will give them some ideas. But yeah, he also revealed that I guess it's a TBS title because I know TBS is also owned by Turner, but did he say Dynamite or maybe just all AEW shows are going over to TBS?
Dynamite's moving over in January, I think, and then Rampage,
Okay.
they said staying on TNT.
Okay. So we're going to have a show on each, the same company owns both, but
Yeah.
I really like the title. I like the look of it. Good for the women's division. I believe they're going to have a tournament coming up, so that should be exciting. What do you think, Tim?
For me, it's cool because, and here come the old head wrestling jokes, but wrestling has a huge history on TBS, so to see wrestling go back to it has a good history on TNT too later on, but some of the old school NWA stuff that I like was on TBS, so for me it's cool to see, and it's kind of full circle. I actually think it's neat, and as for the title overall, I really prefer it over the regular women's title. It just is a lot bigger, and I don't understand why a women's title just because it's for them has to be like small and dainty. So I think this was a better choice.
Yeah, I
wasn't sure what they were gonna do. In my head, I thought, well, now that they're switching over to TBS, is the TNT title going to become a TBS title? So when they showed it on TV, I said, oh, wow, they're really going to go with that. And then they announced it's for the women's division. And I said, oh, okay. Now, so I guess they're going to keep the TNT title.
Oh, yeah. I mean, that's strictly I think the men's secondary title right now.
It would be
We'll
kind of
just
cool
have
if
the
they
TBS
just defend that on Rampage then, 'cause it's on TNT. Because it gives it like an exclusive.
I don't see why they
feel.
couldn't. It's owned by the same network. I don't see
Yeah.
why they couldn't.
It'd be kind of like an exclusive thing. Then you have to watch Rampage for it.
Exactly. After that, we had a interview with Jim Ross and Darby Allin talking about what transcribed last week with him and MJF in the ring. Then this led to a match of Darby Allin with Sting versus Nick Camarado with QT Marshall. Darby won with a cough drop in the end, and QT Marshall tries to attack Sting, but Sting gets right back up, and QT is taken out. This stuff with MJF...
Say one with a cough drop in the end?
Did I say cough drop? With a coffin drop, guys. Sorry.
Was it
with a
menthol
cough drop.
one?
Well,
It's a long day.
Well,
Sorry, guys. Sorry, guys. Coffin drop. Yeah. What do you guys think? Actually, we can touch on it a little bit, because Darby's gonna pop back up later on.
Yeah.
So after the Darby Allin match, we had the Dark Order backstage, and then we had Dante Martin coming out to the ring. I think he basically challenged anyone in the back to a match. He's really feeling himself lately, I guess. Place goes dark. Malachi Black's in the ring. sprays him with the black mist, hits him with the black mass, and says, "Challenge accepted." I think this match
House
is going to
of
be
Black represent.
for sure. I think this match is going to be awesome. I've said it before. Dante Martin he's only 20 years old, but he still has a lot of learning to do. But he's really fun to watch. And I think him and I'm hoping it's not a squash match with Malachi. I hope they put on a good match. But the fans seem to really like Dante Martin right now, and I think he's going to be a big star. But I'm really excited for this match.
Yeah, I don't think AEW's usually they haven't really done a squash match at all, really. Other than I guess Cody with Malachi Black, but that was just a surprise squash match. But the thing I love about this is, I think it was probably 2 years ago when AEW first started. Jungle Boy was kind of in this position of he was the young guy who's up and coming, but he would lose every single match, but put on a great performance, kind of the same way as Dante Martin. But then you see the evolution of Jungle Boy, and now he's in the main event spot almost, or even in the main event right now. And so it's just cool to see that AEW is continuing to build their own stars with Dante Martin now. And especially all of the champions right now, I think, are AEW grown champions. I mean, it's Kenny Omega Kenny Omega is from New Japan, but he's still an AEW original person.
I think he's the only one though that isn't. I mean, Britt Baker. I know she had done stuff before, but she really got more popular in AEW.
So it's just cool. I just noticed that, and I was like, that's really cool to see them keep building new stars.
Yeah, they've definitely seemed and I feel like this is gonna come up here at the end when Andy finally gets to it, but they seem like they are, even with the big stars coming in, they're staying the course with their original plans, and everything's kind of set back to how it was before, just with now big stars included.
So after that, we had Ricky Starks in the ring. Of course, if Ricky Starks is in the ring right now, you're going to have Brian Cage come out, and Ricky Starks, runs out of the ring. He's at the top of the ramp. Brian Cage is just yelling at him from the ring. Then we have a TBS Championship Tournament video package. Like I had mentioned before, that's going to be exciting to see. I have a few girls in mind I'd like to see win it. I'm not really 100% on one particular winner, but there's a couple in there that I think would be good champions right now. Then we had a match. It was Hikaru Shida versus Serena Deeb. If Hikaru Shida wins, she would be the first women in AEW to get 50 wins under her belt, I believe. However, the winner was Serena Deeb, and Serena kind of did a heel turn, I guess. I feel like I haven't seen too much of her, so I don't know, whether she was a babyface or heel, but she takes the award that might have gone to Hikaru Shida and hits her in the head with it. Tim, you had mentioned what JR said on commentary about the award at the beginning of the match. What was that again?
Dude, JR is the funniest. If you really listen to some of the stuff he says when he's doing commentary, dude, he throws the funniest shade quietly sometimes, and sometimes not quietly. But they held the ref Aubrey held up the glass trophy, and JR says, "Well, they must be pretty confident that she's gonna win if they already have it made with her name on it."
and then when she lost, he said, "Well, so much for your trophy."
Yeah, he's always, and people get mad at him too because people are like, "Oh, he buries the product." I'm like, I mean, he's just grumpy. It's funny.
He's just grumpy old man.
I don't take offense to it at all.
And it's also true.
Yeah, true.
Yeah.
After that, we had Darby Allin backstage in their parking garage area, where all of a sudden he is attacked by a bunch of masked men, who we eventually see. I mean, you don't see their faces, but you can tell based off the moves they're doing and what the announcers are saying. It's the Pinnacle attacking Darby Allin, who's in the feud with MJF
Why does Tony Schiavone hate MJF so much?
He's a prick, man.
I've never
Just a little prick.
No, I know, but he gets so over the top angry on commentary. He's making faces and stuff.
I think it's hilarious when he does that. Well, it was funny. Like, why do they put on masks and everything? Everyone's like, "It's the Pinnacle." Like, why are you doing this?
Because they're gonna say it wasn't them.
Yeah, they're like, no, you can't see our faces. You can't see our faces. Like, so.
Yeah.
Then we had a segment of Leo Rush backstage. He's basically talking to Dante Martin and saying that, he should kind of invest in Leo Rush as like a mentor in a way. Then we had Britt Baker backstage, and then we had the main event, the Casino Ladder match. It starts off with Pac and Orange Cassidy. The next entrant was Andrade. Then you had Matt Hardy. Then Lance Archer, Jon Moxley. And finally, the Joker, which was revealed to be a returning Hangman Adam Page. Huge pop for him. In the end, though, the winner was Hangman Adam Page. And I realized he won the first ever Casino Battle Royale. And now he's a winner of the Casino Ladder match as well. So I'm sure we're all assuming, though, he's going to be going against Kenny Omega at Full Gear, which I believe is the next pay-per-view. But what y'all think of the match? I thought it was really good. Jeremy, you had talked about how you went back and watched some of it. I actually went back and watched some of it today as well. Some of the spots that they did were crazy.
Yeah.
I think Adam Page did the dead shot to Pac off the ladder through a table.
Literally a death shot.
Matt Hardy's leg drop was, when they showed the high cam, that was it was pretty gnarly. Now, when I was watching last night, I was like, oh, okay, like I see what they're doing. There was 3 pairs of rivals in there, and then you had Hangman Adam Page. You had Moxley and Archer, so they could get distracted with their fighting each other. You had Andrade and Pac, and then you had Matt Hardy and Orange Cassidy. And while everyone's distracted and doing these big spots, that's taking both the men out. Then you got Adam Page, who's in there by himself and for himself, and he climbs that ladder and grabs the chip. What do you think, Tim?
I thought it was a great match. I mean, it was definitely a spectacle, and the bumps that they took were super crazy. I kept waiting for... well, that's not fair. I was going to say I was waiting for Matt Hardy to do a big bump, but then all of a sudden I remember he did that big leg drop off the ladder. And, because in my head, growing up watching the Hardys and the TLC stuff, I remember Matt Hardy just, doing, crazy stuff. But I can't expect him now to do all that.
He ain't a young buck anymore.
That's not a fair criticism. No, and he did take a huge leg drop, and people were like, holy smokes, that was awesome. But, yeah, those matches always make me nervous when I watch them. Especially the older I get. I think it's just because you in the back of your head, you're like, some of these guys have kids and families and stuff. When you're a kid, you're like, yo, just do crazier stuff. Who cares? And then you get older, you worry about them in a certain way. But I was super entertained. Hangman coming out was awesome. Huge pop. The crowd was going crazy. And yeah, they got back on course with how everything was before Punk and Bryan got there, and Cole.
Do you guys think that they're gonna... I mean, I said it before. Are we all assuming that they're gonna wrestle at Full Gear, Kenny and Hangman?
I would think so.
I mean, it's a pay-per-view worthy match. I don't think they're gonna save it for TV.
Especially if...
Do you think
he's gonna win?
Do you think he's gonna win?
I think he's.
Do you think they finally pulled the trigger? I mean, I feel like he's been in the title picture so many times.
Yeah.
He was he went against Jericho to crown the first champion. Jericho won.
Yeah, I don't think he was ready then, because the crowd was cheering Jericho when he was a heel in that scenario.
I mean, and Kenny's a great champion, but Hangman's grown a lot, in my opinion. I think...
it's just listen to the pop that he got.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, it was... I really was taken aback. I mean, I knew he's really popular, but I was really taken aback.
That's also another thing where it's like AEW is doing a simple thing and just having him come out. It's not like some big swerve, and then they bring out Hangman afterwards or whatever. It's
Yeah.
like, just have him come out and win.
Yeah, everyone knows he's coming out.
Yeah.
He's coming out.
Well, guys, that was our weekly AEW Dynamite review. Before we get out of here, let's do a big announcement. We were approved today for our Pro Wrestling Tees store. So we're really excited about that. We're finally going to have merch on ProWrestlingTees.com. On the next episode, we hope to have more updates. And then, of course, we'll let everybody know when there is an official opening and you can place your orders. Guys, please follow us on Twitter at the PW Fan. Follow us on Instagram at the PW Fan. Follow Andy's Funko Pop collection at the 410 Fan Bros. And we also have full episodes on YouTube where you can like and subscribe now. Thanks again for listening, and join us next week on the PW Fan Podcast, where we talk all things wrestling.